There we go. Hello, everybody. Nikki Hancock with Nikki Hancock Photography. Apologize for my appearance, but while we're under quarantine, I'm not super worried about getting dressed up every day since I am just hanging out at home. I wanted to address the most common thing I'm being asked for help with right now, which is how to deal with weddings rescheduling. It's just part of life right now, and it's something that none of us wedding vendors ever thought we would face on a mass level before. So understandably, we're nervous. So I just want to give you some tips on how to make the process go smoother and how to make the communication go smoother. It's not a perfect world. It's not going to go perfectly, especially amid such difficult times. But I truly believe that with communication and empathy, that we can make this a really successful thing for most everyone that we're working with. So the number one thing that I'm seeing that's causing a problem when it comes to brides needing to reschedule their weddings, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna lay it on you. I'm not working with a lot of vendors, but photographers specifically are getting defensive before there's even a fight or an issue. And it's understandable. Everyone's really, really scared right now and nervous and confused and doesn't know what to expect. We don't know when we're going back to work. And we had a set schedule for the year that we thought we were gonna follow. And some of us have to get childcare. We all have to get second shooters for that. And we have our travel plans booked out. So it is like very inconvenient. But what I urge you to do when a bride contacts you and says they need to reschedule or cancel is to, instead of putting up a defensive wall of, oh my God, this is really inconvenient and expensive for me, to approach it with empathy. Think about how much harder it is on them than you, because I promise it is. They have spent the last probably year planning this event the way that they dream of it and the way that every single person in their life is giving them input on how it has to go. And now all of a sudden, some of them with no notice at all are having to just toss that all out the window and change everything. And I think it's even almost harder for those that are just outside this window of time that don't know what to do. They don't know if they need to reschedule or not, so they're kind of putting feelers out of, should we look at alternate dates or should we wait? They don't know what to do. So my first tip is to approach every single one of these conversations with empathy. You start the conversation by letting your client know that you cannot imagine how hard this must be for them. It's totally valid if they're emotional, if they're sad, if they're mad. Anything they're feeling is so understandable and right. If you've been married, you can maybe say, I planned a wedding, I've been married, I remember what it was like. I can't imagine losing everything at the last minute. And if you haven't, you could also say, I dream of the perfect wedding. I know how much you've put into this. Either way, give them empathy and let them know. I think the next thing after giving them empathy is kind of showing them what maybe you deserve empathy for too. So I told them, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I can't imagine how hard this must be. It is really hard for me too. You're not my only bride. I have all these brides and everyone is so scared right now. Everyone in my family is scared. All my friends are confused. This is such a hard time for all of us. But I know that if we work together, we can find something that will work. And then this is the important part where you need to know what your policy is. So for me, I've been in business for 8 years and I've done almost 200 weddings. So I have a pretty clear-cut contract. And I always urge everyone I mentor to have a very clear-cut contract. And I always joke that every time your contract changes, it's because something crazy happened. So no matter what you could dream up or imagine to put in your contract to cover you, to cover the client, this is some crazy stuff happening right now. And there's definitely going to be weird loopholes and this and that, that aren't covered necessarily on either side. But The end of the story is nobody wants to go to court over this. Nobody wants to cry over this. So the entire goal is to work together to find solutions. 99%, I'd say, I'm throwing that statistic out, but almost everybody is rescheduling. Most people are just having to pick a different date further down the road where hopefully all this crazy stuff with the virus is cleared up. So for me, what my policy is, and what almost every single other professional wedding vendor I know's policy is, as long as you go ahead and pick a date that I'm still available, nothing changes. The payments you've made are completely applied. You don't owe anything else. We just pretend that wedding happens on this date instead. That makes the client happy, that makes the vendor happy, although we do lose out big time on it because we aren't able to book another wedding for that date. We don't come out of pocket necessarily. So it is a solution in that you cannot require your client to pay any more than they already were for the services you're providing them, and you cannot ask them to suffer any more than they already are. So this is where you as a vendor have to eat it a little bit and go, okay, over the long run, I'm gonna lose money, like possibly a lot depending on how many weddings you shoot a year, but I'm gonna keep my clients happy. I'm gonna do the best service for me. I'm doubling and tripling up wedding weekends, which I don't normally do, but this is a crazy situation. So if I have to do a wedding on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, I am doing it. And when it comes to that time, I will remember these were the compromises we made, the solutions we made through a time that there were no good solutions. So be really clear about what your policy is. So for me, it is, as long as you pick a date I'm already available, we just transfer your wedding to that date. We'll redo the contract with the new date on it. Problem solved. If you choose a date I'm not available, then the contract's no longer valid. Any money you've paid me, that's your deposit that you lose, and you can just choose another photographer. However, that's your choice. I like to let them know, here's the options. It's your choice. They're not going to want to spend extra money or get a different photographer or DJ or whatever your business is, but I always think it's important to let people feel like they're in charge and they have a choice, because they ultimately are. Odds are they searched long and hard for you and they want you. So it's still gonna work out in everyone's thing. Another really important point is that you need to give your couples guidance. Most of them have no idea what to do just in planning a wedding, much less having the entire thing thrown out the window. So even if they call you and say, I need to cancel my wedding, that might not be what they mean. They might mean they have to cancel their April 4th wedding. But that's still a reschedule in effect, as long as you can kind of explain the options to them. Another thing I have encouraged is, if the whole thing is too stressful and too difficult or emotional, that I'm willing to go anywhere, travel anywhere for an elopement if that's what they should choose. Basically, my point is your couples need guidance. They need you as a wedding professional to not get overwhelmed, to not get thrown off. You need to approach it with confidence, like, we got you no matter what. If you want to reschedule, awesome. Let's look at all the dates that are available. If you want to screw it and just elope, awesome. We got you. Confidence is really important, because they're not feeling confident. They're feeling completely upset. I truly believe that communication and empathy are the two most important things. As long as you're communicating really well in a non-defensive way and an empathetic way, we all want the same thing. Every single one of us just wants to find a solution that makes everyone happy in a situation where nobody's happy right now. So if you can look at it from that perspective, you're going to communicate better in that perspective, and you're going to find solutions together. So I think that, and that's an important thing to end your conversation with, is like, I just want to say again how sorry I am, how hard, I can't even imagine this must be for you. It's super hard for me too, but I know we can find a solution together and make this work. What I've been doing is asking so the hardest part has usually been the venues, And they, in my experience, have been the least understanding for whatever reason. I've encouraged my brides to get a list of open dates that they have, instead of just one. And then I look at it and say, okay, here's the ones I am also available. And then they can also from there check with their other vendors. A couple of weird things that have come up. One of my colleagues had a bride that was rescheduling for later in the summer. And then she asked, but what if we get to that point and everything's still shut down and we have to reschedule again? Well, in my opinion, that's no harm, no foul. You still can't book other weddings that date anyway. So I would offer the exact same policy. As long as this natural disaster is what I'm calling it, this thing out of our control is happening, then my policy is still the same. Pick a date I'm available and we'll just keep rolling it over. They're not likely going to take advantage of that, and you're going to know whether we're back to work or not. So that's no issue. Another thing that popped up with somebody was the couple they have to postpone their wedding to late summer or fall because of the virus, but they still want to actually get married on their date in a courthouse, or like legally married without any of the other stuff. But they asked the photographer if the photographer would be willing to cover that for an hour. So her question was, should I charge him for that hour or not? And my opinion was not. My opinion was you're available on that day. And while my opinion is going to differ a lot from most people will say that is your time, you charge for your time, especially right now when we're all struggling to pay our bills. But I highly disagree. I think that this is a very unique time where going a little above and beyond and offering that hour ceremony coverage in addition to the date you're still going to do for them down the road, it's going to build loyalty and it's going to show a lot of class on your part. I personally think that photographers, we're kind of a dime a dozen. There's a ton of us out there. And at the end of the day, your customer service is what sets you apart from other photographers. So in my opinion, in that situation, I would do it for free. I had that situation come up last year, obviously not because of the virus, but because of a family illness where they decided to just do the ceremony real quick a couple months before the full wedding so that one of the family members could actually be there because he was dying. I did not charge for that. I did the ceremony and family pictures absolutely on my own time and dime. And I did get a really amazing tip from them. So my fuel and time was still covered, but at the end of the day, it was more of like an act on my part to do this. So I just really think the customer service part is the biggest, most important thing in setting you apart from other people's businesses. So as a recap, this is such a hard time. This is something most people never could have imagined or have covered in their contracts. We're all like madly changing our contracts for the future now. But I think as long as you are really good, open, communicate, and be empathetic, that everybody wants to find a solution together, and that's what we're doing so far. Everyone, I'm so proud of my industry, and my brides have been so amazing about it. I know that they are miserable and upset, and I am too. Like, I live for wedding season and it just keeps getting pushed back further and further. And I know I won't quite feel like myself till it's back on. But I think we can all use this as a learning experience to get better at communicating and better at serving our clients. Feel free to drop me a message if you've come across any other weird situation that I didn't cover, or if you need help with anything, I'm always here. I don't always know the answers, but I really love talking them out with you and helping figure it out together. So best of luck to everyone and stay healthy.